Good morning, everybody. Hope that you had a fantastic week. We're here in the month of May now, hard to believe. Another edition of Edmentum, Illinois YouTube channel presents Friday Fact, Fiction, and Fuzzy. I'm here with Kevin Gallman, my colleague here in Illinois. And today we have the privilege to talk with Katie Algrim, who is the Director of Innovative Professional Learning for the Kane County Regional Office of Education. Her Twitter handle is up there right behind Kevin. He's pointing it out right now. Great follow on Twitter. Katie, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To get an idea from you in your role, professional learning, and all the contacts that you have with folks across the state in your position with the Regional Office of Education. What's a fact, Katie, that you've learned as you've been talking with folks here over this school year?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily something I've learned, but definitely something that has been reminded to me over and over again. And it's just how awesome, not only just statewide, but nationally, right? Our educators are. So not only did they survive a pandemic, but they've thrived in this pandemic. And I know it probably doesn't feel like that to most educators most days, but when I get a chance to talk to our educators and see what they're doing on Twitter, I'm blown away by the amazing teaching and learning that is taking place, regardless of what their instruction format looks like, whether it's hybrid or online or in person. Our educators are doing an amazing job. And especially this week, as we wrap up Teacher Appreciation Week, that I know that they've probably felt very embraced this week. But I think if we look back over just the past year, that it wasn't just this week they were doing amazing things. Great that we were able to celebrate it so specifically this week. But they've been doing amazing things this whole time, and being able to meet their needs, students' social and emotional needs throughout this pandemic, and how much extra time and effort they've put in to learning a new craft. Teaching during a pandemic is a completely different craft. And I just think that I'm reminded of the fact every day of how privileged I am to be a part of this profession, but how amazing our educators are. And just what a great job they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, Kate. I think one of our previous guests, Kevin, talked about, this idea that everybody this year is in their first year of teaching because of the fact, to your point, Katie, that everybody's learning this again, relearning this idea of how do I form relationships with kids? How do I do that via webcam instead of in person? Just so many new things that people have had to adapt to.
And just embraced fully. So I deliver professional development, that's my job. It's what I do. And I'm just always blown away by how many teachers willingly seek out professional development, even during this pandemic, when they're learning a new craft, that they're always looking to fill their bucket and to learn more. And, I think that the cliche saying is, educators are lifelong learners, but we see that every day. And I think that we've seen that more and more during this pandemic than ever before. And just huge kudos to all of our educators for embracing the situation that they're in and really making it their own and thriving in it.
That's we hear that sentiment a lot, and the idea that parents have seen more and more what teachers do and have experienced that as well. All right, so that's our fact. Now we go to our fiction. What's been a fiction that you have seen this year, Katie?
It's been interesting. So in my role, I think a lot of community members are confused about what exactly I do. And so I'm amazed by how many community members had said, kids aren't learning now. And I just couldn't disagree with that statement more. And I think that they felt that more a year ago right now, when we were just learning how to do online learning and that sort of thing. I think that tide has turned, where I think that they are seeing that kids are learning some more than ever in this environment, and students' abilities to be problem solvers, and students' abilities to research and learn how to learn more independently than ever is a lifelong skill that they will have now forever, that maybe they wouldn't have had the opportunity of. And I think that as learners, they are learning more about themselves and what does and doesn't work for them younger than they would have ever been able to learn before. And that's a huge life skill. So again, I think that the tide has turned. I don't think I'm hearing as much that students aren't learning. I just think that what they're learning in addition to the content is just invaluable. And I think that that's something that should be highlighted as a huge success of this pandemic, and not just, looking at, we hear a lot of rhetoric about learning loss. And I'm not trying to downplay that, but let's look at all the amazing learning that has happened.
I think the conversation around the definition of learning, and the definition of what is our goal for education, I think that dialogue has been one of the best things, building on what you've said, to come out of this time as well. So that's a great support for that.
Yeah.
All right, now we go to our fuzzy.
Okay.
Warm and fuzzy, and or still a little bit unclear.
So I'm not a huge warm fuzzy person. So I'll do both for you, but the warm and fuzzy was harder for me to kind of think about. So something that I'm fuzzy about is just like, what is education going to look like next year? And I think we're all fuzzy with that, but I just keep thinking, like I had just mentioned, of all the amazing things in education that this pandemic has brought out. So I'm just very interested in seeing like what stays, and what can we really fine tune and make even better, because we're not in a pandemic, but still hone in from those things. And then what things do kind of get put back to the side, and we see more traditional learning taking place. So I'm very interested in that fuzzy experience of seeing what sticks and what is able to be, able to stick. So I'm excited for that, to provide clarity for me on that, because I think, this pandemic has changed education so much, that once things settle down, like, what does it look like? That'll be really cool.
So I think that is where we see our conversations going. And we see our times during Friday Fact, Fiction, and Fuzzy really morphing into what is next? What are the lessons that we learn? How do we move education forward as a collective group of educators to see how students grow and our communities grow? So we love that. Really looking forward to it. She is Katie Algrim from the Kane County ROE.
Warm and fuzzy?
I'm sorry. I apologize, Katie.
Deep for this.
Warm and I wanted. You said you didn't want to give that, or that was harder. So, but let's hear it. Let's go.
I dug deep.
Warm and fuzzy. My fault. Let's go.
You're good. So, self-care is hugely important to me, and it is something that I am passionate about, not just in my personal life, but in my professional life and teaching self-care. So my warm and fuzzy would be, as we wrap up Teacher Appreciation Week, to make sure that all the educators are not just doing self-care this week, but on an ongoing daily basis, whether it's just 5 minutes of, I'm just going to take a deep breath before I get out of my car and go into my house so that I can leave work at work and be present for my family tonight, or whether it's going for a 10-mile run and burning off some of that energy. So my warm and fuzzy is just, as we look into the summer season here and wrap up Teacher Appreciation Week, just that everyone makes sure that you take time for yourselves, because more now than ever, we've deserved it.
Thank you. And I think that the message we can all learn from, and thanks for sharing that and not letting me get away with moving away from that. So again, she is Katie Algrim, Kane County ROE, at Katie092513. Follow her on Twitter. This has been another edition of Edmentum's Friday Fact, Fiction, and Fuzzy.
Thanks so much.